present for us. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tabitha Schrader, and I am the Executive Director at New Beginnings, a Home for Mothers, which is a nonprofit ministry of Christian life resources. Life is a gift. It's probably a phrase you thought you might hear today. Aside from days like today, it's a phrase that you really only hear in two different situations that are rarely comparable to one another: birthdays and near-death experiences. But the reason why it comes up in those two situations is because those are the times that we are reminded to not take our lives for granted, because life on earth is temporary. It's a reminder that your life is valuable. As I was thinking about this phrase, life is a gift, I realized that you don't often hear it used in reference to the lives of other people. What I mean by that is, when you say life is a gift, you're usually referencing your own life. To be fair, it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue as easily to say the lives of others are gifts, but that's exactly what I'm going to be talking to you about today. I recently heard a continuation of the phrase, life is a gift, that I'd never heard before. Life is a gift, and love opens it up. The title of my presentation today is Value the Gift, Loving as We Have Been Loved. The first half, Value the Gift, obviously is in reference to the theme of our convention for today, valuing the gift of life because we have been fearfully and wonderfully made by God. The second half, Loving as We Have Been Loved, is in reference to Jesus' command from John 13:34. He says, "Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another." I mentioned I'm the director of New Beginnings. If you're familiar with New Beginnings, you know that loving like Jesus and valuing the gift of life are two core principles of the work that we do. And as a member of the New Beginnings team, I have the privilege of witnessing those two principles come together in the lives of single mothers and their babies every day. But you know, valuing life and loving like Jesus often go hand in hand. In fact, you usually can't have one without the other. And as Christians, we know that that makes sense. The love that Jesus showed us was as good as it gets. Literally perfect love. And he was the ultimate valuer of life in all of history. He gave up his life to save the lives of everyone who had been living, who was currently living, and who would live into the future. When you love the way that Jesus loved you, you are naturally valuing the gift of life as well. And we see this play out in all sorts of ways each and every day. When you volunteer at a homeless shelter, when you help an elderly neighbor carry their groceries inside, or even when you just hold your child's hand as they cross the street. You are both valuing life and loving like Jesus. And while those examples are meaningful and impactful in their own ways, in the early 1990s, Christian Life Resources was thinking about a way to make loving like Jesus and valuing the gift of life a full-time proposition, especially in the lives of single mothers and their babies. CLR wanted to demonstrate that Christians do truly value life at all stages and value nurturing it. If you research the statistics behind abortion, you'll find that the majority of women who choose to terminate their pregnancies do so because of a lack of resources. They feel financially unprepared for some reason. They don't have a steady income. They don't have a stable housing situation. They don't have a solid support system behind them, whatever the case may be. And we also know that, on average, over 6,000 abortions occur in Wisconsin alone every year. So if we could save the majority of 6,000 lives simply by providing mothers with the resources that they need to support those lives after birth, why wouldn't we do that? And so in 1993 in Denver, Colorado, New Beginnings was born. And today, now almost 3 decades later in Milwaukee, our vision remains exactly the same as it was the day we were founded. That vision is simple but powerful. To provide generationally poor single mothers with the necessary resources and opportunities to facilitate self-sufficiency. And our mission statement goes into even greater detail. The mission of New Beginnings is to help a single mother develop spiritually in God's Word, become a responsible citizen in society, continue her education, achieve self-sufficiency, and be a competent and loving Christian parent. How that mission is accomplished looks different in the life of every mother who walks through our doors, depending on where her life has taken her up until that moment. But I'll go into greater detail on that shortly. I would guess that the majority of you attending our convention today have at one point or another identified yourselves as being pro-life. If I asked you to describe the pro-life stance to someone who had never heard of it before, what would you say? I would guess that somewhere in your description you would mention something about being anti-abortion. And of course, that is a major part of it, an important part of it. But if our goal is to value life and to love like Jesus, we can take it a step further. We typically think of the pro-life movement as babies' lives being saved in the womb. But being pro-life can and must continue even after a baby is born, and even into adulthood. Going back to the statistics I mentioned earlier, if most women seek out abortion because of a lack of resources, then the question becomes clear. What can we do to provide those resources to the mothers in need to save the lives of their babies? What can we do to continue to be pro-life after a baby is born? That's where New Beginnings comes in. To paint a picture of what we do in practice, I'll give you a brief overview of what it looks like when a mother moves through our program at New Beginnings. The mothers that New Beginnings serve typically come from generationally poor backgrounds. This means that the mothers' families have been in poverty for at least 2 generations. And generational poverty is different from what's known as situational poverty. According to the book A Framework for Understanding Poverty by Dr. Ruby Payne, situational poverty occurs as a result of a specific circumstance. Things like the loss of a job or death of a family member or spouse. Situational poverty is temporary. Generational poverty, on the other hand, is perpetual. It has the power to trap a person. Generational poverty continues into each subsequent generation unless something forces an individual out of it. New Beginnings aims to be that force in the lives of single mothers and their babies. So you may be wondering, why is it so difficult to get out of generational poverty? And the reason is that generational poverty is not just about how much money you have. Generational poverty is about knowledge and resources. Do you know how to open a savings account? Do you know how to dress for a job interview? Do you have health insurance? Do you know how to network to make connections with the people that you need to? These are the types of questions that can keep someone from getting out of generational poverty. And what makes it even more difficult is that the majority of these things are things that can only be achieved with the help of another person. And that brings us to the mothers at New Beginnings. When a mother enters our program, she typically has run out of options. She is usually quite young, 18 or 19 maybe. She might be homeless or jobless or both. She might be without support from any family or friends. She might have needed to drop out of school. Her history might include things like foster care, physical, sexual, or emotional abuse, jail time, drug use, and more. Regardless of the specifics, though, her life has not been a walk in the park up until that point. She seeks out New Beginnings as a last resort. She is in survival mode. After moving through our application and interview process, she's offered a position in our program, and she moves into our facility. She's given a fully furnished apartment, whatever basic necessities she needs for herself and her child. She's allowed to settle in. The first year in our program is naturally the most difficult. Not only is a mother adjusting to living in a new place, getting used to a new structure for her life, but she also has a newborn baby in her care. New Beginnings provides each mother with a safe and supportive environment that she may not have had anywhere else. Over time, the structure provided at New Beginnings allows a mother to begin setting herself up for success on the outside world. Going back to the book, A Framework for Understanding Poverty, Dr. Payne asserts that the key to escaping generational poverty is an education. So, New Beginnings prioritizes education with each mother that we work with. We help her finish whatever schooling she has left, whether that's getting her GED, applying for college, and getting a degree. She's able to work jobs and internships in her field of study so that when she graduates, she's prepared to enter into her career. She participates in trainings and classes related to general life skills, such as parenting, financial management. All of those things so that she can be prepared to attain that goal of self-sufficiency after her time at New Beginnings is complete. Of course, of even greater importance to us is each mother's relationship with Jesus. While all of that programming is going on, the mothers are experiencing daily devotions, individual Bible studies, weekly church attendance, and so much more. She's able to not only grow in her education and her career, but also to grow in her faith. We have had numerous mothers over the years leave New Beginnings having been baptized, confirmed in their faith, having baptized their babies, being active church members. More than anything else, those are the outcomes that we're hoping to achieve. I would like to introduce you to Erica and her son, Navy. Erica has been a resident at New Beginnings for the past 2.5 years. Her son, Navy, just turned 2 a couple of months ago. Erica came to New Beginnings while she was still pregnant and was looking for a new life, or a new beginning, for herself and her unborn baby at the time. I recently asked Erica to share with me how she feels New Beginnings has impacted her life over the past 2.5 years. And she was gracious enough to allow me to share her response with you. The following is Erica's answer. New Beginnings has changed my life in many ways. The biggest ways are that I found God since moving in, and now have been baptized and confirmed. I also have been able to raise my son and feel supported. Countless volunteers, staff, and residents made raising Navy a village effort, Countless nights I have thought of what my life would look like without New Beginnings, and the biggest thing would be there would be no Navy. He wouldn't have been mine. New Beginnings changed everything about me, and I thank God every day for the opportunity to be able to thrive and flourish here. As you can hear in Erica's story, the work that's done at New Beginnings is powerful. Powerful enough to change or even to save a life, not only on earth, but eternally. And Erica isn't the only one. At this point, New Beginnings has served well over 200 mothers, and we will continue to serve more and more mothers and babies, just like Erica and Navy. But we can't do that alone. New Beginnings cannot continue to run forever on its own. Our resources are limited. We need you. You may have heard of a concept known as the Bystander Effect. Essentially, this is a psychological principle that says the more people who are around you, the less likely you are to help someone else. For example, let's say you're at the grocery store and you're walking along and you see someone about 10 feet away from you or so who is struggling to reach something on the top shelf. And you're pretty tall, so you think to yourself, I could go over and help that person. But as you look around you, you notice there are several other people who seem to be about the same distance away, if not closer, and those people look pretty tall too. So you think, one of those people is probably better equipped to help that person right now. And then you walk away. What you don't think about in that moment is that all those other people are thinking the exact same thing as you about you. And in the end, none of you help the person struggling. This happens because of something called the diffusion of responsibility, which is exactly what it sounds like it is. The more people who are around you, the easier it is to diffuse responsibility away from yourself. The reason why I bring this up is because it can be all too easy for any of us to fall into the bystander effect when it comes to helping others. We think there's definitely someone more qualified than me, someone with more resources than me, someone with more free time than me. But remember, we're trying to value life and love like Jesus, right? Look at who Jesus called on to help other people. Basically, the most unqualified people he could find. The majority of Jesus' disciples were tax collectors and fishermen. Not exactly the careers you think would find a second career in ministry. But remember Jesus' command from John 13:34. He said, "Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another." End of sentence. He didn't say, "Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another, but only if you're qualified. But only if you're wealthy enough. But only if you feel like you're exactly what they're looking for." Jesus called you to love as he loved, just the way that you are, right in this moment. When I say that the mothers and the babies at New Beginnings need you, I really mean you. You specifically, each and every person in this room and watching online today. You don't need to be the best people person or have thousands of dollars in your savings account or be free every other day of the week to help the mothers and babies at New Beginnings. You can value the gift of life and show love the same way Jesus did towards you, just the way that you are right now. So, what are the ways that you specifically, can help? First of all, volunteer. We always have several volunteer opportunities available at any given time at New Beginnings. You can babysit the little ones. You can give the mothers rides to and from school or work. You can help with projects around our facility. Just tell us what your gifts are, and we will help you get involved. Secondly, donate. This past September, about a month ago, we closed on a piece of property. This piece of property that we now own will be the site of a brand new facility for New Beginnings. Our current facility has a maximum capacity of 4 mothers and 1 baby per mother. Our new facility will be able to house 10 mothers. And it will have the capacity for those mothers to come in with more than 1 child. That's over twice as many mothers and potentially exponentially more children. Our new facility will also include classroom space, playroom space, additional offices, so many more resources that we just don't have right now. But of course, this new facility is estimated to cost us almost $4 million. And in the meantime, every mother who comes through our doors costs us tens of thousands of dollars to support. In Wisconsin, infant child care costs more on average than college tuition per year. So, what can you do? Become a monthly donor. Provide us with consistent financial support over time. Or offer a one-time donation to help us meet a specific need, such as building our new facility. Or you can donate most needed items off of our wish list. Diapers and wipes are always appreciated. Every bit truly, truly helps. Thirdly, participate. Each year, New Beginnings and CLR host several fundraisers and events. Come to those events. Participate in those events. Bring friends and family to those events. Not only are they usually a pretty fun time, but they're also a great way to show your support for the work that we do. Keep an eye out in your church bulletins and on our social media pages. Sign up for our email lists so that you know what events are coming up on our calendar. Finally, share. Share the story of New Beginnings. Share our mothers' stories. Spread the word about the work that we do so that we can reach even more people. The more people who know about the work that we do at New Beginnings, the more lives we can potentially impact. You know, loving as Jesus loved and valuing the gift of life might sound simple enough. After all, who among us today wouldn't want to do those two things? But how often do other things distract us or pull us away from those calls to action? That's what makes New Beginnings such a special place. With those 2 goals as its foundation, with all of our staff and volunteers, and our hundreds of supporters around the country, just like you, we all share in the opportunity to change and save lives. New Beginnings not only provides housing and support to mothers and babies in need, but it also introduces them to Jesus. As you heard in Erica's story, New Beginnings really does provide new beginnings. But we need you, just as you are in this moment, to help us continue providing those new beginnings to more and more mothers and babies. You can show love to the mothers and babies at New Beginnings the same way that Jesus loved you. Mothers who can learn Jesus' love because of that love that you showed to them. That's the power of valuing life. So please, volunteer, donate, participate, and share. The lives of others are gifts, and love opens them up. Value those gifts and show love the same way that Jesus loved you. Thank you.